now we know that was the worst timing in history to start something in travel tech.
I'm wondering if there is anything you had to sacrifice, like really sacrifice to be able to do what you are doing today, like having your business, a full-time job. What are these things?
It's not a great combination to launch your business and have kids at the same time. I think that's the harsh reality.
What you can tell to people who are trying to take off and trying to make the product visible, but don't have a lot of budget to waste on marketing and like ads, what would be your advice to them?
Grow, rise, open minds, wisdom shines, it never blinds. They are growth plates.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Growth Mates new season in the company of women. I've been dreaming about making this season happen, and here I am. I will be inviting fantastic women leaders, founders, entrepreneurs, creators who are building fantastic products that we use every day, and they are managing to balance it all with, personal life, motherhood, hobbies, and frankly, I just want to learn from them. I just want to learn how they are doing all of these things. And for that, I'm going to invite these women to this show, talk to them. And if you want to support this and if you want to stay in touch, please subscribe to this show where you listen to that or watch it. It's really, really helpful for me to continue doing that for you. And on that note, I'm very happy to welcome today here Marie Martens, a founder of Tally, the product I'm literally using every day this week and hopefully will continue using it more often. And I met Marie this year in Dubrovnik, where we met on fantastic MicroConf. And since I've heard her story, I really wanted to share it with everyone else. So today we're going to dive deeper into that. So welcome, Marie. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. I love the concept of your new show, so really happy to be a guest on the podcast.
I appreciate that so much. How do you feel today? Is it super dark in Belgium as well as in Amsterdam? I'm like really struggling with all that darkness this month.
Yeah, it is. I actually read an article yesterday that I think we had like 5 hours of sunshine this month or something. So it's horrible. Yeah.
It's horrible.
I did go on a quick trip with friends to Marrakesh a few weeks ago. So I had my portion of vitamin D for this month and tried to escape. But since I'm back, it's been gray and raining. So I feel you.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, hopefully when we will release that episode, the sun will go back and we will be enjoying it again here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Marie, maybe you can tell a couple of words like who you are today, what you're doing, what you're passionate about. So I think you can do it better than me just listing things from your LinkedIn.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, my name is Marie. I'm born and raised in Belgium. I have a background it's mainly B2B marketing. I'm 36 years old. I was going to say 35, but I had my birthday recently.
Oh, happy birthday.
And yeah, I launched Tally together with Philip, who's my technical co-founder, but also partner in life and father of our 2 children. We founded Tally in 2020. We actually started doing a different startup, but that's a story for later probably. Pivoted into Tally, and now we're 4 years further and still bootstrapping our business and still having a lot of fun while doing it.
Wow, I remember your story, so I'm already aware of all these interesting things that we're gonna talk about, but I really want to listen to it one more time and maybe dive into some parts that we haven't discussed at MicroConf where we met. And I remember one thing that really captured my attention is that in I think 2018 you started absolutely different idea, right? So it was something connected to influencer marketing community platform, and then you pivoted to what you're doing now. But let's get back to that time when you were creating your first idea and what was happening that year and how you landed on what you are doing right now.
Yeah, it's a long story. Like, to go to the actual start, we need to go back, I think, to 2017, 2018 indeed. And so Philip has kind of a history of working in startups. He has launched a few startups before, so he was kind of the entrepreneur, in our household. And I always enjoyed, like, trying out new things, creating things, building stuff. I was active as a marketing manager in a digital product studio. Basically, they were creating software for clients, right? And I was like in charge of marketing there. So I was a bit in the tech space as well, but never really started my own business. And one day we were traveling in Mexico, and we were talking about travel influencers because, we were in Tulum, kind of the mecca of travel influencers. And at the time, there was a lot of negative publicity around them as well because they were trying to stay for free in hotels, and hotel owners didn't like it, and so on. And we were like thinking, oh, there must be a lot of like small hotels that are not that great at marketing, but that could actually use more influencers, to maybe do barter deals and to promote their places and their properties. And so, we also always had the dream to become digital nomads and like work remotely and travel and go to Bali, the whole that whole idea, and surf and work on the beach. So this idea for us was ideal. Like, we were like, oh, we'll just build a marketplace. We'll connect travel influencers with small hotels. They can, we do the connecting part. They can work together. They can make contracts with the influencer and so on. So that was the idea. Obviously, we came back from the trip, back to reality. I was an employee at a company. Philip had a different startup at the time. So we didn't really do anything with it until I think 1 year later, when we still decided like, oh, let's just make a landing page. Or it was actually a form. It was a Google form. Let's make a form. And if we can just pitch the idea, and if we can find 100 hotels that would be interested in it, then one day we should build it. So we did that, we're always dreaming, about this idea. We did it. We found 100 hotels. And at one point, end of 2019, Philip's previous business got sold, acquired. And it was kind of a pivotal moment for us, like, oh, maybe this is the time to try something by ourselves. And we still had this, semi-validated idea. And so he started building like an MVP. We got some customers to pay. And then beginning of 2020, I was like, okay, I'm going to quit my job. We're going to jump, rented out our
We
place.
get into that point, like that probably people who are listening to us can imagine what happened in 2020 for traveling industry. If you didn't know, in addition to making this show, I'm also helping other companies grow meaningful products as an advisor and a founder of GrowthMates. And now I'm also launching a new course, User-Centric Product-Led Growth. My whole career, I've been balancing between business goals and user needs. And one truth that I found: what is good for user is also good for a business. I collected all the best practices I learned for over 6 years working on product growth at Mira, interviewing more than 20 industry leaders on this podcast, and preparing proven practices that drove real impact. In this 3-week intensive, we are going to turn your real challenge into a growth roadmap, from quick wins to big bets. And I will be there for you to provide my feedback in live sessions. The course starts already on 24th of March, and for dear listeners, I want to share a discount of $100 with the promo code GrowthMates. I would like to interact with each one directly, and this is why it will be a small group of only 20 seats. The link will be in the episode description, and I would appreciate if you can share it with someone who might find it useful. Hope to see you on the course. And the last announcement. This podcast has a friendly partner, Amplitude, the best tool that can help you get insights you need to drive growth. I've been on the lookout for great examples of thoughtful user guidance, which, to be honest, was not easy to find. But recently, I came across something interesting that Amplitude introduced, their new guides and surveys. Instead of throwing pop-ups at every user, it sends the right message at the right time. Imagine if you're exploring a new feature, it doesn't jump in immediately. It nudges you only when needed. If feedback is requested, it happens right after a meaningful action, not in the middle of something important. If you'd like to influence user behavior in a positive way while respecting each user, check out Amplitude Guides and Surveys, and the link is in description.
So yeah, now we know that was the worst timing in history to start something in travel tech, unfortunately. We were on our way to Bali, literally. We had like one first stop in Bangkok in Thailand, landed there, COVID hit, exactly same moment. It was like February, March 2020. The borders were closing, and so we had to fly back because we were kind of getting stuck. And did that, went into lockdown basically for the next year. Also lost all the potential of growing this business because everything was closed. People were not traveling. Hotels were closing. So we were like, okay, we need to do something else. And actually, because I always say we pivoted, but we just kind of stopped this and had to do something completely different. Like Tally is not related at all to Hotspot. That was the name of the first project.
And
And
when
so
you
I
got back, how was it? Like, literally, the situation around the world is probably the worst possible. You quit your job. You are now like sitting in a very closed environment with a business you cannot basically develop further. So how did you feel that time? And what magic happened that you found some sort of energy to build things from scratch? Because sometimes people, even like I'm talking about myself here, probably you're in the best possible probably environment sometimes and you have the resources, but sometimes you just feel stuck and you just cannot create a 0 to 1 idea. But probably maybe the stuckness that happened that time helped you to get out of the box and create something. But tell me more, how exactly you landed the idea of Tally.
It was pretty stressful because so at the beginning we were just being stubborn, I guess, and we're like, okay, we just started this, and everyone kind of also told me like, you're gonna quit your job for, you're just gonna not earn money and you have a nice job and I was always like, what's the worst thing that can happen? I can always just go work somewhere else. But obviously no one said, pandemic, so we didn't take that into account. I guess what we did, we worked on the travel on Hotspot. We worked on it for a couple of more months. So actually until summer, we were like, this thing is not going to last very long. We'll prepare, we'll start writing content, whatever we could do, build the platform, add more features, which was not smart in the end, but just do everything. So when the market picks up again, we're ready to hit it. And then by summer, we learned that, it was not going to go that fast, and that COVID wasn't going anywhere. And it was difficult because we were in lockdown. We were just home with the two of us. You could like go on walks, but that was kind of it. So I think on Fridays, we did like cocktails on our terrace, like small terrace in our apartment. And then we had brainstorm sessions. So basically, we would, get drunk and come up with ideas that what it
Best
seemed
possible
to.
brainstorm situation, yeah.
I know, right? And so we were like, okay, we need to do something else because we gave ourselves 1 year to like prove to ourselves that we could build not a business, but like something that has a sign of some traction. And yeah, we already lost half of the year, and then at one point, like forms somehow was always a recurring theme. I think because we used the Google form for our first like waiting list, and we didn't want to pay for Typeform because, we just kind of lost our business and didn't have the money. And we didn't like how Google Forms looked like, but, it did the job. So we just went with it. And then I think we also started using Notion at the same time to run our business. That was not really, existing. But, we just loved using the tool, and we could get lost in, creating pages and databases, and just, it's a tool we love to use. And so at one point we thought, okay, I've used a lot of form builders in my experience in marketing. Philip had built forms as a developer, like custom forms. There's the whole Notion inspiration coming. What if we can do kind of what Notion did to notes, right? They kind of made note-taking fun when they just started. What if we can do that with forms? Because, okay, there's tons of forms. It's a super competitive market, but everyone needs forms. So it's a big market. The demand is there. What if we can make, a form builder that people actually love using, that is simple enough to use? And what if we could make forms fun? That was kind of the idea. And so very in early days, we did think that just a form builder was not going to cut it. So we thought more, I think, in the likes of Airtable, having a database, having a CRM, because just forms, there's a lot of forms.
Yeah.
But then we started building, and then you realize what a loophole forms are, and how much you can do with just forms. And so, I can. That's what we're still doing until today. Yeah,
and we will talk about that, like, how you got to this business and how you develop it and what were like the mistakes and things like that. You reminded me about the interesting concept of like simple but powerful. I think this is a principle, the design principle I found when I was looking for high quality principles of different companies, and that was from Linear. Linear is pretty complex software, but they have this principle that they are applying to features. Like, it shouldn't be complex, it should be simple but powerful. And this is what I see with Tally, actually, because I'm using it for my course surveys, for example, looking for new guests to the show and things like that. So the tool is simple, but the use cases are like, there are a lot of them. But before getting there, I actually wanted to talk to you about more personal stuff, exactly how you're building things like with your partner in life, because it's very rare situation and there are probably many challenges but also many benefits from that. So I've met you with Philip in Dubrovnik, and it was fantastic to see your like synergy in action. But can you tell, like, how is that possible? Some people, or like women like me, are even struggling to imagine this, like, direction. How are you making it happen? What are, maybe you have some house rules or things to help you set some boundaries to separate work and life? But
yeah, we have some. So we've been doing this for 4 years. So we've developed some frameworks for ourselves, right? I always find it important to mention this, because if you asked me day one, this was a completely different story. So it's definitely been with ups and downs. We've had struggles. It hasn't been easy to like actually switch from being partners to co-founders. And obviously, you don't make the switch, but you kind of have these parallel lives and roles that live next to each other. And so in the beginning, I found it hard, because I think I found it hard to get feedback from Philip, because for me, he was still my partner and not my colleague. While I found that a lot easier working with, real colleagues, like back in the day, I would take things less personal. I think that's a big difference, or at least for us, between man and woman, probably. But for me, I would find it difficult to have boundaries, to have discussions at work and not bring them up, in the evening in the sofa type of thing. So I had to learn that, I think. So we really grew into our roles. I think what helped is that we, I think from the start, kind of trust each other's expertise or skills or gut feeling. And so Philip is the technical brain. I kind of handle everything else. It's like marketing, but admin, finance, that type of stuff. And we've rarely had situations where we like fundamentally don't agree. So usually we agree on most of the things, but we just also had to learn to give each other responsibility and let go. So he's in charge of, design and building the product. And obviously we talk and I give feedback, but he's kind of end responsible there. And I trust he'll make the good decisions, and he trusts that from me as well when it comes to, marketing, for example. So like giving each other space and just separate roles, that kind of helps. I think if we would both be engineers, it would probably be different. So obviously that helped by now, because during that time we also had 2 kids.
And this is absolutely different probably topic for the episode, for the entire book even, but I want to talk to you about that as well. So also listening to what you've said about your partnership, really like partnership in life and partnership in business with Philip.
Yeah.
Something I heard today on another podcast, the lady said like relationship is very similar to business as well. You have your partnership, you need to align on your goals, on your family goals. You need to have some principles and values in place. And I haven't tried it myself, but it feels like if you have both types of partnerships, like relationships, but also business, maybe there is a synergy that helps to improve every element a little bit, right?
Yeah, I think there is. And I think if you don't work together, you probably don't go that far into like, building the frameworks around it. But because we are also in a business context working together, I think that also kind of influenced the personal context. So we have systems. Like I think we communicate a lot better in private just because we work together, because you have to learn, how to do that in a business context. So that definitely helped. We also learned that we work best with like fixed schedules and shifts. So basically we have kids. We decided that we don't want to outsource. So here's the thing. Sorry if it's a bit confusing, but so work and private life obviously blends. There's no work-life balance. Like for me, it's just impossible. What helps for us is we have an office, so we leave the house and come back home. That definitely helps. But in the end, for me, it's just one big pile of things that need to happen, right? What do you put your energy and your time in, and what do you want to outsource? So for me, it started with, okay, household, cleaning lady, everything like that. I cannot put time into it because I'm also running a business and I also want to see my kids, right? So it's just like choosing what you want to do. And because we're both in the business, that makes it a bit more complicated, because usually you see, one person staying at home and then the other person going full on the career. So that's a bit atypical for us. So there's a part that I tried to outsource. It also made us realize that we need to grow the team because it was just the 2 of us for a while. And obviously, we cannot do that and have children and be there for them as well. And then we have this shift system where it changes every week. So every other week you have the morning shift, for example. What does that mean? And this is something that works for us. I'm not saying it, it works for everyone. It basically means you get up, you prep yourself and the kids, you bring them to school or daycare, and only then you can go to work. But the other person has the morning privately off. So I can just go to the office at 6 or 7 and start working, right? I don't need to do anything in the morning that whole week. But in the evening, I stop earlier because I go pick up the kids. And then the other person can work longer. And so this system kind of helps us to both feel like, we spend time with the family, but we also have enough, or at least more hours to, to put into the business.
And this is a real system, what you are describing, like having a schedule, having a system, having a framework. It feels like to be able to handle these things, you need to have a system. Without the system, it's probably not going to work. But also listening to things you had to delegate, let's say, like consciously. I'm wondering if there is anything you had to sacrifice, like really sacrifice, and to be able to do what you are doing today, like having your business, a full-time job. What are these things?
I think a lot. I mean, obviously running a business is so time and energy consuming, right? And also just mentally, it's something you're thinking about all the time. Obviously having kids, it's very similar to that. And for me, also just to be able to stay healthy, to be able to cope with, the stress and the pressure that comes with running your own business, I had to be pretty strict on going to bed on time, for example, getting enough rest. And what does that mean? That mean I see my friends maybe less, right? Because in the evenings, there's just less time and energy. And so I think that has been something that I had to sacrifice on, just because I'm not able to do everything at 100% at the same time. And I tried very hard in the first years. And I also just came to terms that in this time of my life, I have to make some choices, right? And I do want to make the best out of this business. And obviously, I want to be a great mother for my kids as well. And it's also a bit of accepting that I also cannot be the best mother all the time. I cannot be the mother that goes to the book club at school and take, days off to help, because we just don't. I mean, it's just impossible to do that and run the business. And then on the other side, I also kind of had to accept that I maybe cannot be the ideal founder that I had in my head, because I don't have, as much time and energy to put into it as someone maybe, that is starting their first business, that doesn't have kids, that is going all in, that can work day and night. We don't have that. So it's an idea we kind of had to get used to. And it might sound stupid because obviously, this is a situation we're in and we chose for it and we're very happy with it. But you still don't know before you actually experience it. And you always think, I'll be able to manage it. The business was still a lot smaller when we, had our first daughter, and everything was more manageable, and it just kind of grew exponentially. And
But you learn
one
how
could
to
have
operate
known
with the
that you
bigger,
learn.
like with the bigger business. However, one thing I wanted to ask you, I remember you mentioned also in Dubrovnik where we met that you actually started building the business and your family sort of simultaneously. So you got
Yeah,
pregnant, and that was the time when you also started like a business direction.
launching Tally. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm wondering, how did you make that decision? Because I meet so many women, young ladies, different situations, who are very scared about that, who are like,
Yeah.
either we're going to focus purely on the business. And it's not just about women, it's about families, young families who are
Yeah.
postponing that decision because we want to build a better, sustainable capital for us, and
Yeah.
maybe get more prepared. But I think you made it a bit differently. You decided just to go and just do it. And how did you decide that? So what helped you to
Yeah.
make that decision?
So actually, I was more hesitant. I think I felt just like how you described right now, like how will I combine this, right? And maybe also a bit scared of not having a job while getting your first baby. Like if you're young and you think about your future self becoming a mother, that's not really the situation you want to be in. I think what helped for us is that because Philip had left and sold his previous business, we had a bit of cash in the bank, and that gave us like the financial runway to be able to survive at least a year. And I think that gave me a bit of peace of mind, because I knew like, okay, whatever happens, there's money to pay the bills, at least for a limited time frame. We did always say that we wanted to have kids, and for us this whole going to Bali and becoming digital nomads was kind of like the last thing we wanted to do before we would start having kids. And then when that didn't happen and we came back, we just felt like, I think also our environment, a lot of friends were having kids. We were like, why are we gonna postpone this for the business? Like in the end, maybe for us, maybe family is or starting a family is more important than launching the business. We also thought that we didn't know how long it would take to get pregnant, so I was pregnant immediately, which I thought this will probably be a year, and then we'll see. So yeah, that those are all factors that you don't know, right, beforehand. So we just kind of decided to jump. I think knowing now, if I would have known then what I know now, I mean, it is not a great combination. It's not a great combination to launch your business and have kids at the same time. I think that's the harsh reality.
I think it's
It's
harsh,
just
but I'm also sure you learned a ton from that, like in
yes.
terms of managing your time properly. This is what I hear from women. So, what are the things you are looking back? You think if you wouldn't have two kids simultaneously, you wouldn't be able to learn so fast these things that you can do today?
Yeah. I think it forces you to set priorities. First of all, we were bootstrapping, so we didn't have a team, so that kind of puts a natural restriction. Plus, then you have kids, so you just I only have this amount of hours per day where I can be really productive. And I think it did help us to just focus on the important stuff and cut out everything else. I think the first year, because it was COVID, there was just also nothing else to do, so that kind of helped to just focus 100%, on the business. And then, our daughter came, after that year. So I was basically pregnant at home in lockdown, but that was also kind of okay because I didn't have to go to an office. I could, take naps whenever I wanted. And also, obviously, the scale of Tally was super small because we just came up with the ID. We were finding our first users. We didn't kind of have like the scale and the pressure that we have now. And so, yeah, we just kind of went with it.
Yeah, went with the
But I
flow, and
went
just
with the flow. Yeah,
learned what you have built today. And finally,
indeed.
let's mention what is Tally today. And I just want to first acknowledge your results, because for me, like, it's incredible, like building that profitability in such a short time with just two people. It's insane, but it's also very inspiring for other people who I already told your story in one-on-one format. But maybe you can tell where is Tally today. So, and from that, we will do sort of like, backstory of some chapters or some things that got you to that, I would say, success. I wouldn't be shy. I think it's a big success.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, so Tally is software to create forms and surveys. We call it the simplest way to create forms for free. And we have around 500,000 users, worldwide, and getting close to 160K MRR, by the end of this year. We've been growing organically over the past 4 years, so it's mainly been product-led growth. Where the product is designed to sell itself. Forms are viral by nature, so when you create a form for free, we have a very generous free tier. You have a made by Tally badge on them. You create a form to share it with other people. And those other people get to know our brand, our product, and try it out. And that's kind of how the growth flywheel works for Tally. And yeah, we really focus on the simplicity, on offering, a great user experience, on offering a lot of value for free. And that's basically how we grow.
Absolutely. And I think this product component, which I'm constantly talking about on this podcast and a lot of my content, is uniquely designed and built by Tally, because really you don't need to add extras, hacks and find these unobvious strategies. It's really about the product itself serving the job of being useful, recognizable. I think you have this Tally badge on every published form, which makes your brand like more visible. But before we get to this point of your success, I think it was pretty long journey, but at the same time, you made some good decisions at some points to get there. And one of them, we can talk about probably your product hunt launch, because there are a lot of debates about that. Should you do that? Should you not? And looking back, would you suggest to do that again to people who are launching 0 to 1 products? Or would you do something differently from what you have done with your approach?
Yeah, I think when it comes to launching on Product Hunt, I would do it again in no second, no doubt about it, because for us it's really been like a pivotal moment, I would say, in the history of Tally. We've launched 2 times on Product Hunt. Both launches had been very successful. I think I would recommend it when, obviously, the platform has changed a lot, and I think that also has to do a bit, it's also a bit linked to the creators and the founders that have started using Product Hunt to launch everything, right? Like the smallest product updates became a Product Hunt launch. And so the type of launches that you find are not always that valuable anymore. So I feel like that has changed throughout the years, and that's obviously a big discussion that is going on online. For us, I think because of the type of product, so free products tend to do, pretty well on Product Hunt, and our target audience. Like, we found our first users through Product Hunt. It's people in marketing and product and founders as well, creators. So if that's your target audience, I do think it's a good idea to launch a product on Product Hunt. We basically waited for, it was probably 6 months after we've built our MVP. So we tried to get, first users on board. We kind of made sure that we had like the basic features that we felt like a form builder should have, so we could avoid like getting feedback after the launch, like, oh, why don't you have an email input field or anything like that. So we covered like the basics. We got the first people on board through cold outreach, actually. And when we had around 1,000 users, then we decided to launch, because we figured, okay, we already have 1,000 users to support us, which obviously helps on launch day. And for us, we got tons of feedback. We didn't become product number one the first time. We were like the fourth product of the day. But we doubled our user base in one day. We got our first paying customers in, and we got tons of feedback. And we kind of got that critical mass of first use. Like, I think we had 2,000 users to get the whole product-led motion, going, and to start growing organically. So for us, it really has been a game changer.
Absolutely. And maybe
Yeah.
here, listening to your story, it's less about like the volume of that launch. It's more about how you treat what you have got from it. And I think
Yeah.
what you did very well is like treating these thousands of like new leads very carefully, very targeted, because you also did like sort of very huge effort on community building probably afterwards. So what did you do afterwards, making these thousands of people who uncovered Tally, your customers, and not losing them at once?
I think, and that's kind of an effort that already started before the launch, but we would invite all the first users to a Slack group. And we would be active in the Slack, in the Slack channel, well, all the time, basically. And so it really helped us to have like one-on-one quick conversations with users and capturing feedback in a bit of a easier way than it would have been through email or, through Canny board, which is something that we have now. But I think just actually talking to people all the time is what we were doing. And so they kind of decided on our roadmap, helped us prioritize and also helped us improve the product. But I think through building those relationships, those early users also became our biggest ambassadors. So there was not like a community program or anything behind it. It was just literally us asking, like, what do you expect from a form builder from like ours, and just building it. If someone would ask something, Philip would literally build it and it would be live the next day. And obviously that becomes a lot more difficult when you grow at scale. Yeah. And that's something we've struggled with as well. Because this is how, we found our first users, and they were obviously the people promoting Tally, sharing, the tool on social networks, really being the early users and helping us grow. And a lot of them are still, on board right now. So yeah,
Wonderful.
definitely been.
And I think you also mentioned, because you're from marketing background, and a lot of people are really struggling with the GTM and also like distribution. You have a product, it's good, but then it's very, very scary, uncomfortable, and people go with like expensive strategies, like spending on ads, spending on other types of marketing. But you went through your community community-led growth strategy, but also influencer marketing. What you can tell to people who are trying to take off and trying to make the product visible, but don't have a lot of budget to waste on marketing and like ads? What would be your advice to them?
I think for us, definitely year 1 and 2, I was basically constantly looking for conversations about form builders. So if I could find anything, anyone on Reddit, on Twitter, on Quora, anyone asking like, oh, which form builder should I use? I was there to reply. And so this doesn't really scale, but it helps you a lot to learn what people are looking for, right? And then to pitch your product in like a natural way. We would also join like founder communities, no code spaces, like any community that we could join and contribute, we did, and did that kind of over and over again. And so it's very time consuming. You know, the numbers are low in the beginning, but I do believe that it pays off. So we did that. We also started building in public, which was my way of doing basically affordable content marketing, because it's just me sharing whatever happened behind the scenes of Tally. And obviously other founders would find it interesting, especially if they were also early stage and would follow our content, but maybe also be interested in using the product. And so that's something we've actually been doing from the start. Since I think we had €100 MRR or something, like that. And that's probably when we did our first post, and up till now. And so people that have followed that journey really appreciate that we keep on sharing, and that we've been sharing from the start, from when we were not making any money and didn't have any users. So that's definitely something that has helped us. And then we just tried to keep things simple. Like we figured out that for us, in order for us to be able to grow without having the big marketing budgets that the competitors have, we have to do something different. And for us, so there's product design. Obviously, you need a good product, and our strength there was like the simplicity of the product. But then there was also pricing. We decided to make it, 99% free. We don't have volume-based pricing, which is something none of the competitors were doing at the time. And that really helped us stand out. So that can help you a lot, right, in positioning and in marketing. It's obviously comes a cost with it. You can run ads, but you can also decide not to run ads and give away a lot of your product for free. But then you need to support all the free users, and offer them custom, and that also comes at a cost. So it's a bit of a trade-off. I don't think one thing is better than the other. It kind of depends on what type of product you have. And for us, this, was more like the more natural way of approaching things. And I think influencer marketing is something we've only started this year. And that's the first time we actually do, I would say, paid. I don't really think in terms of like paid and free marketing. I think there's just a lot of different channels, and maybe you don't pay for ads, but you put a lot of time in writing, that also comes at a cost. So for us, we saw a lot of people creating content about Tally because, we kind of organically had started having ambassadors and creators talking about the product. So we thought, okay, maybe it makes sense to amplify that and start working with those creators and, actually having a budget to create more content about Tally. And that's kind of the first thing that we're experimenting with. And it's still very early, it's a bit too soon to say what the results will be. But I think this is the same with community building. It's a long-term investment. It won't change things overnight, but it all adds to, the community that we're building around the product.
This is wonderful. So there are two components here, big ones, the product itself and how you nurture your community. And I think looking at the product, I want to say it's lovable. There are different ways to describe the product, and Tally, in my category, it's my personal list of lovable products, but it's on my list of lovable products because it doesn't irritate you with these extreme upgrade triggers all the time. It gives you the power that you need at the time for free, but when you're ready to upgrade, you will do that. And I found one thing that you did like very beautifully. I haven't seen a lot of companies doing that. After you upgrade, actually, you ask, because you have form builder, you're using it for your personal research, you ask why you decided to upgrade and which feature exactly you just like after using it, or why which feature like resonated
Made you
to
upgrade. Yeah.
exactly. And like for anyone who is listening, just steal that from Tally and do that with your products. It's beautiful research activity, ongoing research. But what other things you think like others are not doing, but you just tried them out and it paid off in terms of like the product solutions that makes this growth flywheel so organic and so nice that it's really working with the freemium model, which is hard, very hard, to optimize?
I think, I mean, definitely, I think what you mentioned before, you have, the simplicity of, or the beauty of trying to make a very complex product simple, right? And so I think we have built actually a pretty powerful product indeed, and it can get really complex, but the difficulty is into keeping things simple there for the users as well, and keeping it fun, right? So every time we introduce something new or a new feature, we look at, is this easy to use, or will this just, like, are we ending up with way too many settings, way too many tabs? But like, it's just not fun anymore for anyone, right? How can we make it powerful but still easy to use? And I think the simplicity, we also kind of try to translate it into our marketing, into our pricing. So we only had one paid tier actually up until last month. And because we also don't have volume-based pricing, it's super simple. It's like, here's everything for free, and you want a few extra features, you want to remove the branding, okay, that's Tally Pro, priced at $29 a month. There's nothing else. It's just this. And by being very transparent about that, I feel like our users also really appreciate it, the pricing strategy. A lot of users have told us that they've gotten so much for free that they kind of want to pay, or they don't mind paying, because we offer a lot of value for free. I think something you also mentioned is that we don't upsell. We don't like to spam. Like, we treat the product and our users how we like to be treated. So this translates into a lot of things that we don't do, actually. There's no upsell pop-ups. There's nothing like that. There is no drip email campaigns, to try to make you, even though we probably should, start looking into that. But we are very calm, I guess, in our communication towards users, and that's just because that's something that we like to let the product talk, for itself, and that's something that we ourselves also appreciate. I think what else helped us to get the flywheel going is to give as much value for free as fast as possible. So I think the first year we didn't even have a landing page. If you would go to Tally.so, you would immediately be in the form builder. So you would just immediately start making your form, you publish. You don't need an account to try it out. You can build a form only when you want to publish and save it. Then you then you have to create your account. So it's everything we can do, to remove the friction, remove the barriers, we do. And yeah, we just try to keep it as fun as possible to build forms with the product, and and offer as much value for free.
Yeah. I think what resonated is like really keeping it calm, because sometimes I'm trying really to shift that narrative around product-led growth, but people sometimes think about that as a way of like upgrade triggers, all these pop-ups, and this is absolutely opposite. Actually, it's like keeping your product, the product itself, without extras, making it calm, and as you said, treating users like you would like them to treat you in case they would build a product. And it's like
You don't want to
yourself,
mislead anyone. Yeah, you don't like
yourself in the
that.
shoes of the
Yeah.
user, and just being humble in a way. And one thing I also wanted to ask you before we also like unpack maybe some of the plans for the next year of Tally and how do you see that moving forward? One thing you mentioned in the conference that resonated to me was like one of your most successful months was when you actually took that easy as founders. And this is what I'm thinking over and over, being myself as a founder as well. Is like you're rolling around the circle. You're just running sometimes all the time. You're just, insane, maybe like very go nuts. And I see people who are founders who are really like cannot stop working, cannot just take a hold and just see what's happening. But in reality, it really feels when you stop, the work is not stopping, the product is not disappearing, it's still working. And sometimes the results, they are feeling like even better if you just take it a bit slower. So how was it for you? And mm, do you feel it like that now, or it was just one moment when you felt that it was 1 month and
Yeah, I
it's
think,
not this
yeah,
situation? Yeah.
it might have been a lucky month. I think what we learned there is we got forced to work less because of us having our son, so our second child. And I decided after so because it was the second time, I decided at this time I wanted to go on a maternity leave. So I felt like, I'm building my own business. I This is what I need right now in my life. I need to be able to not work for 3 months. And so I kind of prepared for that. And at the time, we didn't have a team or an in house team. And Philip, um, for Philip, it was a really stressful period because he was still running the company and then working with remote team members. And I think because it was such a drastic, change in our lives, suddenly having a family of 4, it kind of, welcoming a baby in the world kind of forces you to take a step back and, zoom out and think about, what's important in life. And we realized that actually at the time, our, some of the people we were working with were not really delivering the value that we were expecting from them. And it kind of helped us or helped Philip at the time to make decision and to stop working with a couple of freelancers and just to take a step back and zoom out and do things, his own way. So the opposite of scaling, which is what, we're trying to do now. And yeah, we kind of enjoyed those months because I just think we needed it as a family. And indeed, the revenue didn't go, the growth we kept on growing in the same pace. And we indeed had 1 month that was actually above average. And it kind of made us realize like, okay, we did build something. We built some kind of machine. Like there's some things in place. Like this thing is not just gonna stop, right? Like the virality of it, the product-led growth, it will keep on growing, and it is okay to sometimes take a step back and zoom out, and things won't go necessarily wrong. I do think that after that we kind of it's very easy to forget about that, and now we're again like full force into we need to work more and we need to hire more people and things need to go faster. And I think that's just the nature of trying to push things forward and always being a bit on your toes and having your own business. But I think that moment definitely, because of having kids, it forced us to do it, and it wasn't a bad thing, after all. So it
Maybe
teach
today
a couple of things.
I just made a reminder for you to do that once again, because I think like zooming out and like just like not being on this runway all the time, but just putting a step back and just looking at the things how they are going may can unpack some interesting perspectives for the next year. And actually talking about that, and you said like doing something opposite from scaling, because I think now you're at the point where it's probably gonna take two directions. Either you're gonna keep it small and cozy, it's not super small and cozy, but still kind of small and cozy, or you can go to the direction of let's say, mirror the company I worked in for 6 years and like becoming a unicorn. And of course it can change, and all the time you can reevaluate your decision. You're a founder anyways. But how do you think about this today? Which one you
Yeah.
are
I
more
think
about?
our ambition changed a bit. We did start it as having a lifestyle business, two people, if we can pay the bills with it, and build something do something we love, that was great. That we've outgrown that stage. The product is just too big to manage with a team of two. So we have been growing the team, but we also kind of became a bit more ambitious in the way that we do want to become a household name in the form building space. Like, we want to stay bootstrapped, so we're not going to grow as fast as VC backed companies do. We're not going to be the next unicorn in Belgium, but we've built a very profitable business, and I think we can do a lot more there. And so we're now a team of only 4 full-time people. And I think in the coming years, we will grow, or we'll probably grow to a team of 10, 15 people. And hopefully we can manage to keep on, growing our revenue as well. And because we've bootstrapped and we were just a small team for the first years, we have saved, we have some money in the company now, and now we can actually start investing in the team and in growing the company. So we've done it in our own way, and we're very excited to see, how far we can get.
This is wonderful.
Yeah. So
One
it won't
question.
stay small, but it will still be
Yeah.
cozy.
It's still because one thing I haven't asked you, but I'm sure like people who are listening to that are like, Kate, why you didn't ask this question? Why bootstrapped? Why
Yeah.
not VC baked?
I think just how it started was like, we might be able to do this by ourselves. It also, initially, we didn't really have the dream or the goal to build a big team or to have, an office in a big company. And that was not our goal. Like, we wanted to see if we could build something ourselves and make money out of it. And I think because we started like that, we saw that we were able, to build it without having investors on board. We got more and more convinced that, okay, this is our path. This is also our story. We're doing something different than competitors. I think also because of the time where we were at in our lives, we could not have the pressure or have, we were just not ready to get other people on board. We needed to use all the time we had into just building and growing the product. And we really love doing that. And I guess that's just kind of how it happens. We're not against, raising money. Definitely not. But I think for us, and at the time, at the time of our lives, this was, something that felt the most natural to us, I think. And I'm really happy that, we made that decision. And obviously also because we had a bit of money to survive during the first years, we were able to make that decision. And that's definitely important to mention as well. We had both also worked for 10 years before we started this. If you don't have any savings, it's really difficult to make this decision. It's also very difficult to offer products for free because you're not making any money. So you're going to make different product decisions as well.
But
So
I think it's also about realistic capital. Sometimes people are waiting for maybe too long. You've mentioned you had 1 year runway or something like that. So I know like people sometimes feeling it's not enough to start anything. It's not enough to leave your full-time job. It's not enough. It's not safe. I'm that person, honestly. I left my full-time job also with a 1 year runway, and today I just finished that year. Like I'm not building the product, but I would say I barely touched my savings. So I was more like, let's say, zero profitability person.
which
And
is great, right? For the first
say,
year.
my mentality is saying like it's not good enough. But my husband is reminding me, Kate, have you seen many companies who survived during like first year? And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm doing something well, but I totally agree with you, like having this like basis or something like a capital just to feel safe unlocks your creativity, unlocks something to move forward. But also it shouldn't be 10 years savings, lifetime savings, 5 years savings. 1
You
year
still need the
is enough.
pressure,
You need
yeah,
a little bit of pressure, exactly. But 1 or 2
yeah.
months, it would be too much pressure. But probably there are people who are very like risk averse, sustainable, or can survive with that level of uncertainty. But I think in your case, it was pretty much like rational balance, right? So
And it still became stressful because just not having money coming in, only having money going out, already that I found stressful, like, oh, I was really longing for the day that I would have, even if it's like the minimum stuff, just something coming in again. And I remember that for us was, I think that was the moment that we celebrated the most, is when we could pay 2 salaries. And so minimum wage, salaries. And then the next milestone was where we would earn more than we would have done as freelancers, for example. And then we
this
thought,
is
wow,
wonderful.
now we've made it. I mean, there's nothing better in the world. Like this is just by building a product, that it's recurring. And so that felt like, a major, major milestone for us. And after that, it just kept on growing. Yeah.
And very, very inspiring story, honestly. Like, I think everyone who is thinking about building a product or not, I hope will get some inspiration from our conversation today. And last thing I'm planning to ask everyone who is like coming to me to this season, to this show, Marie, if you have any women who you would like to see on this show someday, just give me your recommendation and what would be your question to ask to this person.
Yeah, it's I had to think a bit about it, but I actually last week read an article, and it was an interview with Lexi Barnhorn from Notion. And I think she started, social media, but also influencer marketing at Notion, if I'm correct. And because I'm, thinking a lot about community building, at Tally, and also thinking about what are the next steps in hiring for us, and kind of scaling the marketing team, because there is none, it's just me for now. I think my question would be, we obviously see like early signs of a community, and of passionate power users that are helping us promote the product. And I kind of feel like this is a difficult thing to outsource, as in who could help me build, this community. And we kind of have two tracks. There's like, we'll start building community in a more structural way, in which I mean we'll have an ambassador program. We want to help people create content, organize meetups. We also want to work with creators. And this really comes from, us nurturing those relationships. It's a very personal thing. And then there's another track where we kind of want to start investing in performance marketing, running paid ads, and so on, which I feel like this is probably something that I can more easily outsource. Anyway, my question would be, would it be wise to have like a community lead as a first hire, which is maybe something atypical, to do as a company, but which for me feels like it really makes sense? So I think that would be my question for her.
Honestly, I cannot say how much it resonates to me with my thing, because the next step that I'm thinking about Growth Mates, because the name has this community component, I'm thinking about like maybe nurturing a small community, but I'm just a solo person. I cannot handle all the things alone. And this is also very difficult for me to decide. Should I go there? Should I not? Can I maybe have someone to support me on that? So I would love to ask this question as well, and it would be very helpful for me as well. But I think what you've said, it feels right to you. This is exactly probably how founders should make these decisions. Sometimes it's less about like logical market trends and how other companies are doing that, but more about what you feel could unlock more energy in you. Maybe having a partner who could be like your very like-minded partner on this community building, where you could not delegate that fully, but like really bounce ideas, and then it could unlock your creativity and you can invest your creativity and energy into something else, versus purely delegating things that you don't like or don't enjoy. It's something I'm calling these days creative tandem. So I'm really looking for creative tandems, on things, on new streams of growth mates that I'd like to build, because sometimes I feel like too lonely. And probably same thing for you on this community.
Definitely, the same thing. And I think we've been in our own bubble, for quite a long time. And I'm really trying to find those tandems indeed as well, and just to be able to get other points of views in, and obviously there's tons of people that have done this before us. And it's always nice to just find someone who's a few steps ahead. Obviously Notion is a lot of steps ahead. But yeah, still it would be great to
and you just reminded me why I'm doing this show, right? So I'm trying to find people several steps ahead in different directions. Sometimes I've talked here to Randy Hunt, head of design at Notion, many steps ahead, but it's really more about like giving their knowledge and inspiration to other people who might find it useful. So Marie, thank you so much for being with me today. I think your knowledge, and you are already several steps ahead of someone like me and other people who are thinking about maybe building a product someday. And it's been very useful. We will attach, I don't know, like several things to this episode. I think you've shared your product hunt checklist. It's going to be very useful for the community. And also we will attach all the links where you can try out Tally, where you can find Marie, and stay in touch with you, with your amazing team, growing team. And I wish you, steady, healthy growth that you wish to your company. Not too fast, not too slow, but exactly how you want it.
Thank you so much. That's the best thing I could wish for. And I'm really, really happy that you invited me. I'm really looking forward to the next chats that you will have with the upcoming ladies. So we'll definitely be following it closely.
Absolutely.
And I wish you, all the best as well with your business. And I'm sure you'll do great.
Thank you so much, Marie. Thank you.